Hello there and welcome back, fellow modelers, to part 2 of 3 of building Eduard's 1/48 scale Supermarine Spitfire Mark 1. Now, just to get started, we're just going to you get some gaps now and then, and some simple kind of pressing, clamping things down can close those gaps. So once you've got it clamped down and the gap closes itself, we can come in with the Tamiya extra thin cement and apply that and let that get into that gap, and all we've got to do is let that dry. Just a couple of bits and pieces. I mean, this kit does really go together very well. You're not going to find any real issues. A little bit of photo etch here, which, by the way, I'm actually using Tamiya thin cement to glue it down. It kind of sandwiches it together, so technically that photo etch isn't glued down, but there you go. It does work quite well. Again, lovely fit with all the little bits and pieces that go onto this kit. Now, the door, this is designed to be open, but I do want it to, I want to close it just for the spray stage, so a little bit of sanding just to get that just to fit just right. The canopies with this kit as well, I mean, there's no need to do any work with the shining up or anything. They are really crystal clear, and you do get these canopy masks which are rather easy to place on and get all masked up. It does make the job a bit more pleasurable. Also, before we glue anything on, always just clean the inside of any fingerprints, debris or anything like that, because once it's glued, it's really hard to kind of step back. I do use Tamiya thin cement. I mean, you can use microcrystal clear for this. I just kind of like to do that. Mascal, good for kind of getting these kind of big areas that you don't have the masking tape, or you could just use masking tape as well. Now I'm going to kind of seal this up. Right, we're just going to kind of rub on the backside of a number 11 blade here, and we're just going to cut around just to make a nice perfect sort of bit of mask in there, and then we get a bit of sponge to put inside and let that sort of expand inside, so it kind of seals everything up, so we can basically have the canopy open. And I'm putting some more masking tape using the same kind of technique as well, and where you've got bits sticking out like that, we can just get some blue tack or white tack to seal that in. Now, before spraying, I like to use, in that bottle was just pure IPA, and that's really good for just nicely cleaning up your model. And IPA really dries very quickly as well, so you can move along and not have water built up in areas on the model. We can just get straight into spraying. Now we're going to come in with our black just to start with. And with our black, we're basically going to go off and sort of spray our canopy up, and this is just so as what we see on the inside is going to be black and not the camouflage colour. I do also like to kind of go around any sort of like join line areas, sanding areas, anywhere where we've done work. I just like to kind of get that sort of sprayed, and we can see if we've got any sort of problems, anything we need to tackle. And the Vallejo plastic putty technique is good for any of those kind of little tiny gaps which we can just inject in there, wipe away, and we just leave behind that Vallejo plastic putty. Really good technique that one is. Coming in with primer now, which we're just going to spray all over the model just to get our surface. It just makes the paint stick better to the model. It gives you a nice smooth surface. It just prepares everything ready for all our main spraying, which we're now going to go off and do some pre-shading. Now, with pre-shading, it's just a case of following those panel lines, running around them, kind of not making it too uniform, kind of keeping it a bit weathered in the sense that it's not neat. We don't want it to have a checkered effect that makes everything look all sort of too neat, so to speak. Now, on the underside, we're going to be using H74, this kind of nice duck egg colour. I'm coming in with a light misty coat first, just to get the paint starting to stick to the model, and then we'll build it up with a normal light coat. But as you'll see, the pre-shading slowly starts to fade away, and this is where, once we kind of get it to a point where it's looking like it's kind of almost disappearing, we want to go off and thin down our paint with a little bit more thinners, kind of making it more thinner, more diluted, more transparent, so we have more control when we put on our next coat of paint. It's not going to go down so thick and destroy our pre-shading. We're just going to have that bit more control, and we can even target little areas that maybe is just poking out too much of that pre-shading. And then we can move on to bleaching, which is basically using the same color, but we add some white to the mixture. We also want to thin this down, probably maybe like 70% thinners to paint, and we want to have good control by having a good biting point, which is where we just pull back the trigger just as we get that paint come out. That's our biting point, and we want to hold that, and we want to kind of do checkers, zigzags and mottling effects within the panel lines with our bleaching, and it just lightly kind of lightens up the inside and really gives our model a lot of interest with all that pre-shading and bleaching going on at the same time. Now, with the Mr. Colour level thinners and some gloss, we're now going to gloss over this. This just gets our model all ready for deckling, but in this case, it also is going to get us ready for masking up to paint on the top side. So yeah, we're going to get masking away with this. I like to use Tamiya masking tape, and I kind of just find it's just good that you sort of try to sort of go from point A to point B when putting masking tape down. But as you can see, you don't need to put a lot on. Now we're going to come with our two colours, dark earth and dark green. For this, I'm using the Mr. Hobby range. Really good range of colours there. Coming in at the same angle along the leading edge. If you can hold the same angle, you don't have to mask up your leading edges. You can just sort of get a straight line by just literally holding that angle all the way around. Now I do spray the whole model our first brown colour. I don't mess about with, you know, doing the camo pattern with the first colour. Getting out the panzer putty here for making our camo pattern. I like to keep the instructions in front of me. I like to also cut this panzer putty because it just stretches and stretches for ages. Roll them up into sausages, and we can just sort of manipulate the panzer putty and put it in the pattern of the camo that we're doing. We can use pencils and paintbrushes to micro kind of put in those camo patterns there. We can even stretch them out like pancakes to fill in any sort of gaps as well. And there we go, we've got it pretty much all over the model, and we can begin our dark green. XF81 by Tamiya is a really good one, by the way, for this. Just want to be careful that you don't overspray and it kind of bleeds underneath our panzer putty, so kind of keep your coats nice and light, and then you've got the nice lovely process of removing this camo, this panzer putty, and revealing the camo. I do like doing this stage, it is rather nice. Now sometimes you might not quite like the pattern you've done, no big deal, you know, you can just kind of remask and reapply whatever colour it is and get it just right. Now we're going to add a bit of XF4 yellow to our green, again just like the bleaching we did on the underside, but we're adding a yellow because yellow just seems to go better with green, and with the brown we're just adding a little bit of white, and we get that kind of nice bleached look all over the model. And then we're gonna come in with some black now, some nice flat black there with the Hobby Colour thinners, and this is where we could do some post shading. Post shading is basically doing pre-shading but on top of everything, right? But with this one you want to make sure your paint is really thinned down to something like maybe 90% thinners to paint, just so as you don't have so much coverage and ruin the model. You've got to be very careful with that one. And then we just want to get it all nicely sprayed up with some gloss, ready for deckling. So there we have it. That is the end of part 2. Right, we'll have part 3 of 3 up in probably next week or the week after, and hopefully you'll be looking forward to that. If you want to go check out any more video builds we have over on the Genesis Models website, please go check that out at genesismodels.co.uk. But as always, until next time, my name is Bobby Waldron, this is Genesis Models, and I hope you've enjoyed.